Spencer Onte here, who is going to tell us about Instagram, which gets a cash injection and a value of $500 million. $500 million.
Well, they haven't cashed the check yet, but they're deep in talks to raise a new round of venture capital investment of around $40 million, which would potentially value the company at $400 to $500 million. And we're talking about a company that's only 2 years old, and we're talking about a company that has 13 employees, and we're talking about a company that was only valued at about 25 million a year ago. So pretty good return on the investment so far. It looks like.
Bubbles. So it is true, is it not, from the story that you wrote, that some financiers are steering clear of this because of those reasons?
I talked to 2 investors who passed on the deal because they said that the valuation was pretty rich, given that the company makes little to no revenue, and its business model is very immature. I.e.,
that's very diplomatic.
They don't know. Well, you have to look at this in terms of how these companies work, which is that they're only 2 years old. So the typical internet consumer company does not really start trying to figure out a business model until year 3, which is right about right now. So if they raise this money, there's going to be a considerable pressure for them to actually figure out how we're going to make money on the user base, which is about 15. It's more than 15 million.
Okay, I've got to ask you both this. Let's start with you, Eric. What sort of business people don't figure out the business model to year 3?
Well, usually if you can get to year 3, if you can survive long enough. I mean, the standard argument with these things is that you build up a user base, which it has done. It has, it's the most popular application of its type that I'm aware of on the iPhone.
#1 photo sharing app on the iPhone.
Exactly. Yep. So presumably they're going to move on to other platforms later, Android.
They said they have an Android app that's coming out
soon.
I
could build up a user base by opening a store, giving away free beer. Very, very quickly, but I mean that's not a business model. But maybe I get to it in year 3.
Well, to play devil's advocate, a lot of these companies that people say are not going to monetize actually do end up monetizing. Facebook is the most prominent example. Yeah. Twitter is starting to monetize now. LinkedIn is profitable in monetizing. So there is actually some logic to this idea that you build up the user base and then you monetize. Of course, there are examples of companies that didn't end up monetizing, but there is a track record of these companies pulling this off. The thing that they have in their favor is they're very engaged users. People like to play around with this thing. There's a lot of companies and celebrities that have opened accounts on Instagram, and so
we use it. Here at
WSJ has an account. Exactly. A lot of media companies are using it to promote their content and their brand, and so I think that gives them an opportunity to leverage that. Because if the companies are already getting fans on, because you have a follower-fan model like Twitter. Some of these companies have tens of thousands, more than 100,000 followers and fans. They can use that to sort of do marketing and advertising potentially.
Right.
What do you think? You buying that, or is $500 million a bit rich?
It sounds a bit rich to me. Yeah, even with all those users, it does sound.
No, there are other companies that get into the financing of these companies for other reasons than making money. It's for raising money. Explain how that works.
Right. Well, I think what I was told by several of the people who I talked to was that when Instagram initially started trying to raise money for this round, the valuation they were getting was actually significantly lower, more closer to 300 million. As the word got out, as interest started growing in the deal, the valuation started to rise. I think one of the factors that may be in play here is that a lot of these VC firms are under intense pressure. Venture capital firms are under intense pressure to get into the hottest deals, all right? Because if you're a VC firm and you don't have a Twitter or a Facebook or a Zynga or a Groupon or a LinkedIn that you can paste on your website, your limited partners are going to be like, why do you exist? You can't get into the hot deals. That's where most of the money is being made. Well, obviously some of these deals have made significant amounts of money for the VC investors who are in LinkedIn, Zynga, Groupon.
But surely
they made tons of money on these deals.
That's all very nice, but surely the really big money is being made in companies, or is going to be made with companies we have never heard of, with technology we don't yet understand. That is where the real money is going to be made.
You could say Instagram fits into that bucket. A lot of people have never heard of Instagram.
Well, a lot of people, but you know what I'm saying.
It's not a household name.
Well, it's a household. Well,
It's
yeah,
getting
it
there.
is.
It was
Let's
the
be-
iPhone app of the year, so that carries a lot of weight.
I would say it carries a lot. But do you know what I'm saying, Eric? I mean, it's really, presumably, it's something that someone comes up with and says, "Oh, I don't know about this. It's just crazy." It's like
those are the riskier investments. The companies in stealth with unproven business, unproven technology.
well, apparently you don't need a business model year 3 anyway,
Yeah,
so that
that's
doesn't
true.
matter.
That's
So,
true.
but you see what I'm saying? I mean,
You're talking about something that is like even more
just beyond the anything.
less developed than Instagram.
Less
I
developed
see
than
those kinds of
Instagram's.
companies all the time.
Yeah, so that's what he writes about.
Right.
So it's going to be those things. It's sort of guys with test tubes and stuff like that saying, "Hey, look, I've come in, I've got this thing. We don't know quite what it's going to do, but it's pretty amazing."
That's true. I mean, and if you're an investor, the key is you want to get into that deal before everyone else finds out about it. Like, you want to be in the first round or the seed round, which is probably valuing these companies at 5, 10, 15 million. And then when, the less smart money comes in later,
Then the valuation floats and
on
pays
paper, you've got a nice profit.
There you have.
Yeah.
See, that's the real way. Get in
Right.
early. You can also lose big that way too. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Spencer.